Greetings and welcome to Underground Video Network's Behind the Counter. We are here at Stebbins Con 2016. Sometimes when we go to a con, it's kind of hard to find somebody interesting enough to talk to. Excuse me, anybody else that we've talked to before. But we were fortunate enough this time. We have a neighbor. We have a table here at Stebbins Con, and I am here with Eric Palecki. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
I am very well, and I will be honest. When we first got here, the name stuck in my head because Palecki, yes, and I'm like, no, I'm thinking of Supernatural Jared Palecki. I'm like, no, I know that name, and this is where I know that name. You got to write a story for the Guardians of the Infinity.
That's correct.
Now tell me, let me ask you a little. What was it like writing for one of the bigs?
It was an incredible experience. It was, if I never get to do it again, for the rest of my days, I can say that I'm a Marvel writer because I have, a 15-page Marvel story.
Yep.
It has, it features Gamora from the movies that everybody knows, and also Kitty Pryde because she's currently a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy,
Which I love.
which is fantastic because my introduction to the X-Men was a cartoon from 1988 called Pride of the X-Men, which was a failed pilot that they used to air with Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
Yep.
And so that's what hooked me on the X-Men back when I was 10 years old.
Same. Same here. I remember that.
So it was just a fantastic experience. There's a very brief Thanos cameo in the story, so I can say that I wrote 8 words of dialogue for Thanos, which is, at this point in pop culture history is such an awesome experience. So that was a pretty fantastic opportunity.
How did the opportunity come about? Because I imagine, we, after doing a show for so many years, there's so many people that we know that are writers and are artists. And it's to hear, somebody that actually got a chance to get their foot in the door, how did that come about?
So I got to go to San Diego Comic-Con last year, and I talked to a couple of Marvel editors there. And, I told them, I'm a writer. I'm an independent writer. I've done a few self-published books that were very successful Kickstarter projects, and now they're on Comixology. And as I walked away from the meeting, they said, well, why don't you send us some stuff? Why don't you email us some links to your stories? And I, of course, thought that was just them, blowing me off.
Yeah.
And that I'd never hear anything. But then fast forward to October of that year, and I get an email from Nick Lowe, who's one of the senior editors at Marvel, and he said, hey, checked out your stuff. I like it a lot. Would you like to write a story for this upcoming Guardians of Infinity anthology series we've got coming out? Well, yeah. So after a couple months of back and forth with his associate editors that are actually covering the book, Jake Thomas is the editor on Guardians of Infinity. We came up with a story that we liked that put Gamora and Kitty in a cool situation together, and the rest is history.
That's fantastic. Was there a big change for you from being an independent writer to the restraints, I can imagine, of an established franchise, such as, the Guardians of the Galaxy? Was there any kind of you can't do this, you can do that? Was it?
It was. I don't want to say that it was restrictive, but it was definitely different. It was definitely felt more like doing a job.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a bad way at all, because again, the editorial team was fantastic.
Which I can imagine, because they don't want anybody to just be like, oh, I can write this story great. Well, here comes Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, everybody. I can
And there was one incident that we did have to change from the original script, and it was kind of an 11th hour change. We actually had to rejigger some of the dialogue because the X office came back and said, well, you can't do this because they share Kitty Pryde.
Right.
So the editors in the X office said, can you change this just a little? So again, I was paid to do a job, and I did it, and I think it turned out really well. I mean, the story doesn't set the world on fire, but it's a fun little adventure story, and it was, like I said, really cool to get to write these characters that I've been in love with since I was 10 years old.
That's fantastic. Now, you got, like you said, you got your start as an independent writer.
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of your work?
Sure. I have, right now I have 2 self-published graphic novels that I funded and was able to print through Kickstarter. Orphans was the first, and then Red Angel Dragnet was the second. Orphans is a superhuman espionage book. The main character has superpowers. He's kind of a Captain America analog, but he only has those powers when the lights are off, when it's in darkness. He's photosensitive.
Okay.
So it's got very much of a, like I said, an industrial espionage vibe. If you enjoyed Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Orphans would be a great book for you. And then Red Angel Dragnet is kind of an action horror book. If you're a fan of things like Supernatural or Buffy or the Dresden Files, it's about a tattooed Chicago bookseller who discovers that the supernatural is real and becomes kind of a supernatural investigator and immediately gets in way over his head.
I love stories like that. The stories about the everyman who stumbles upon this extraordinary world. You know, I love those stories because it's stories like that can put someone like me, you know, a reader, into a story. It's like, you know, when you know, like your big title superheroes, you know, you can't, you know, relate to them. But stories like that where, you know, it's just a bookseller and it's like makes this discovery and it puts you into that story. It's like, that's what I would do, or how would I do this?
Right, and it's, from a thematic standpoint, it is very much that all of his decision making is driven by fear. And of course that leads him to make increasingly bad and reckless decisions.
As I just said, now I can completely relate to this character.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, I don't want to be here. What do I do? That was a bad decision.
And then my most recent graphic novel, not to, as far as awkward segues go, this one is actually, Stebbins Con is actually the debut of Fake Empire, and it actually will be available in comic stores beginning, I don't know when you'll make this available, but May 18th it'll be available in comic shops. It's published by Darby Pop Publishing. Darby Pop used to publish as an imprint of IDW, but now they're part of Magnetic Press. This is a murder mystery, but the hook is the victim is the Tooth Fairy.
Sold. So far I was like, I'm liking it. I'm like, sold. That is a great idea. Now let me ask, where can people that are watching this show right now find your work? Do you have a website?
Yes, I do. It's ericpalicki.com, and then I'm on Twitter at epalicki. And then, as I said, both Red Angel Dragnet and Orphans are available on Comixology through their Submit program, if digital comics are your thing. And Fake Empire is available. Comic shops can order it. It's available on Amazon. And then that will also be available on Comixology eventually.
Well, Eric, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks so much for taking the time.
You're welcome. Not like we're not going to be sitting next to each other for the next, 4 hours. Like, hey, want to do an interview? Yeah. So, yes, thank you very
Wonderful.
much.
Yes, thanks again.
So, please check him out.